I never thought I'd be the guy who lets his friend crash on his couch after a fight with his girlfriend. But there I was, half past midnight, sitting on the edge of my ratty old couch, watching the door like it was a revolving one, except only one person was about to walk through it. That person was Jamie, my closest friend since college, and tonight, he showed up at my apartment looking like he'd just lost a battle with his own head. Jamie and I have always had this weird, easy way of talking about the messy parts of our lives. He's the kind of guy who wears his heart on his sleeve, sometimes too much, and right now, his face was all scrunched up like he was carrying a storm inside. He wasn't much for drama, but tonight, you could tell something had just exploded somewhere. He didn't say much when he came in, just shrugged off his jacket and made a beeline for the couch without a word. I followed, half curious, half worried, and plopped down beside him. The apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the fridge and the faint buzz of the streetlights outside, casting long shadows across the floor. "I'm sorry for just showing up like this," Jamie finally said, voice low and a bit rough. "But I couldn't go home." Not tonight. Normally I'd expect a little more explanation, but he wasn't in the mood. I didn't press. Instead, I handed him a beer. He took it without meeting my eyes, and figured I'd let him figure out his own shit for a bit. But then, out of nowhere, Jamie shifted closer, like he was trying to close a gap that wasn't just about space on the couch, and then he did the last thing I expected. He reached over and tried to pull me into a cuddle. Now, I'm no stranger to hugs or the occasional bro cuddle, but this was different. It wasn't just comfort or friendship. It was something else. Something that instantly made my heart race, and my brain started scrambling for reasons why this was happening and what it meant. I froze. Jamie looked almost embarrassed, like he'd just realized he'd crossed some invisible line. He pulled back a little, face flushed, eyes searching mine like he was asking for permission without words. And here I was, stuck between the sudden rush of feelings I thought I'd packed away for good, and the quiet realization that tonight wasn't going to be just another night of listening to a friend's breakup story. I still don't know how to explain exactly what happened next, or why Jamie came over in the first place. But sitting there, with him so close I could feel the heat from his skin, I knew one thing for sure. Nothing was going to be the same after this. So yeah, that's where it started. Jamie, his fight with his girlfriend, my couch, and a cuddle that made everything complicated in the best and worst ways. And honestly, I'm still trying to figure out what to do with all of it. I wanted to say something, to break the silence that had suddenly become this thick, heavy thing between us. But my mouth went dry, and all I could do was shuffle awkwardly on the couch, trying to figure out what to say without sounding totally weird. Jamie's eyes stayed locked on mine, and I swear, in that moment, I could see all the walls he'd built around his feelings crumbling down. "Didn't mean to, make things weird," he finally muttered, rubbing the back of his neck like he was trying to erase the moment. "No, it's fine," I said, though my voice cracked a little, betraying just how not fine I actually was. "I mean, I'm just surprised, that's all. I didn't expect, you." He let out this breathy laugh, the kind that sounds like relief and awkwardness all rolled into one. "Yeah, me neither. Guess it's been a hell of a day." We sat there, the silence settling back in, but somehow feeling less suffocating this time. I took a sip of my beer, trying to calm the sudden storm of thoughts in my head. Jamie was looking down, fiddling with the hem of his sleeve, and for a second, I caught a glimpse of the guy he used to be when we first met, before life got complicated, before relationships and breakups and all the messy stuff. "I don't know what I was thinking," he said, eyes still glued to his hands. I don't want to be alone tonight. And maybe I just wanted to feel like, I don't know, like someone's got me." That hit me harder than I expected, because, honestly, I'd been feeling kind of alone too. Not in the same way, but still alone. We all play our parts, put on faces, pretend everything's okay. But moments like this, they strip all that away. "You can stay as long as you want," I said before I could second-guess myself. "No pressure, no weirdness. Just here." He looked up, surprised, and for a brief second his eyes softened in a way I hadn't seen before. "Thanks, man," he said, voice quieter now, We didn't say much after that. Instead, Jamie just settled in a little closer, his shoulder brushing mine. It wasn't the big, bold gesture of a cuddle anymore. It was simple, almost hesitant, and I found myself leaning in, like a magnet I didn't know was there. The clock ticked past 1 in the morning when he finally spoke again. "I don't think things are going to be okay with her," he said, voice cracking just a bit. I nodded, not because I knew what to say, but because I wanted him to know I was there, that he wasn't alone. "I thought I was over this," he admitted, eyes fixed on the ceiling. "But it's like every time I try to move on, her face just shows up in my head." It made me think about my own wrecked heart, how I'd shoved feelings down so deep I didn't even recognize them anymore. Maybe that's why Jamie's sudden closeness felt like a jolt, not just because it was unexpected, but because it woke up something I'd been trying to ignore. Before I even realized it, my hand found his. It was tentative at first, like testing the waters, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he squeezed gently. That little touch broke the dam, and suddenly, the space between us didn't feel like a chasm anymore. It felt like possibility. "Jamie," I started, heart pounding. "Have you ever thought about us? Like, not just as friends?" His eyes met mine, wide and searching, like he was trying to figure out if I was serious or if this was just some weird, late-night confusion. "Honestly, yeah," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "I have. But I didn't want to mess up what we have. You're one of the few people I can really be myself around." That hit me like a punch to the chest, because I felt the same way, more than I wanted to admit. For a moment, everything else faded. The fight with his girlfriend, the late hour, the quiet apartment. It was just the two of us, raw and real, sitting on my worn-out couch like maybe we were finally ready to stop pretending. Then, Jamie laughed nervously, shaking his head. "God, this is so awkward." I chuckled too, breaking the tension. "Yeah, but sometimes awkward is where the good stuff starts." We didn't jump into anything that night. Not really. But as he curled up against me, this time a little more comfortably, it felt like something unspoken had shifted. Like maybe, just maybe, this fight wasn't just an ending. It was the beginning of something neither of us saw coming. And honestly, I wasn't sure where it was going. But for the first time in a long time, I was okay with not knowing. Because right now, right here, things felt possible. Morning came slow and kind of blurry. I woke up to the soft light creeping through the window and the muffled sound of Jamie's steady breathing beside me. For a second, I just lay there, trying to make sense of what the hell had happened overnight and, more importantly, what it meant for us. We'd fallen asleep sitting next to each other on my couch, Jamie's head resting on my shoulder, and the awkward tension that had filled the night before somehow softened into something warmer, quieter. No one had said much after that last conversation. Just a few scattered words here and there, but mostly silence. And honestly, that silence didn't feel empty. It felt like we were sharing a secret, a fragile understanding that maybe things were about to change. I shifted carefully to not wake him and grabbed my phone to check the time, 8:37 a.m. Not early enough to be productive, but early enough to feel the weight of the day ahead. I debated whether to wake him up or just let him rest a little longer. I figured I'd give him space. After all, last night had been a lot, and I wasn't sure how Jamie processed things like this. Eventually he stirred, eyes fluttering open with that groggy just woke up look. He blinked a few times, probably trying to reorient himself from whatever dreams he'd had. "Morning," I said, voice quieter than usual, as if speaking too loud would shatter something. "Morning," he replied, voice rough but soft. He rubbed his face like he was trying to erase the previous night from his memory. Or maybe just the tiredness. There was a beat of awkwardness, like we'd both slipped off an emotional cliff overnight and weren't entirely sure how to climb back up. So I started, clearing my throat. "You hungry? I can make coffee." Jamie gave me a small smile, the kind that carries 1,000 unspoken things. "Yeah, coffee sounds good." While I fumbled around making the coffee, I kept stealing glances at him. It was weird, seeing him in this light, so vulnerable and unguarded. Usually, he's full of jokes, sarcasm, that confident bravado he wears like armor. But right now, he looked almost fragile, like the fight from the night before had drained all the fight out of him. I handed him the steaming mug when I was done, and we sat there, him still curled up on the couch, me perched on the armrest. "So," I said, swirling the coffee in my cup, "what's the plan? Are you thinking about going back to her?" He let out a long sigh, staring into his cup like it held all the answers. "I don't know. I want to, but I don't think it's healthy anymore. She's been distant for months, and tonight just kind of broke the dam." I nodded, understanding more than I wanted to admit. Relationships can be messy, especially the ones that feel like they're crumbling, but you're too scared to walk away. But what about us? Jamie looked up, eyes sharp now, full of something I couldn't quite place yet. Hope? Fear? Maybe both. I felt my chest tighten. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I've never thought about us like more than friends. But last night changed something." He smiled then, the kind of smile that's both shy and sure, like he's daring himself to believe in something new. "Yeah, me too." We sat in that space for a bit, the kind of quiet that isn't awkward but full of possibilities. Then Jamie shifted, stretching his arms over his head like he was waking up more than just his body. "Can I be honest?" he asked. "Always. I'm scared, like really scared. Because whatever this is, it feels right in a way I didn't expect. But it also feels like opening a door I don't know if I'm ready to walk through." I reached out and squeezed his hand, feeling the tremble in his fingers. "Me too," I admitted. "But maybe that's why we should try. Sometimes the scariest things are the ones worth taking a chance on." Jamie looked at me then, and I swear, for a moment, the whole world shrunk down to just the two of us. "Okay," he said, voice soft but determined. "Let's figure it out. Together." We spent the rest of the morning talking, really talking, about everything we'd been holding back. About what we wanted, what scared us, the kind of love we thought we weren't allowed to hope for. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't neat, but it was honest. And after months of pretending we knew exactly who we were and what we wanted, this felt like something real, something raw. By the time Jamie finally got up to leave, the awkwardness had completely disappeared, replaced by this quiet promise hanging in the air. "Thanks for letting me crash," he said, pulling his jacket on. "Anytime. And maybe next time. Don't wait until you're at your breaking point." He laughed, the easy sound I'd missed. "Yeah, I'll try." As he walked out the door, I realized how strange and wonderful it was to be standing at the edge of something new with my best friend, the guy who'd always been there, and suddenly, maybe something so much more. And honestly, I couldn't wait to see where this could go. After Jamie left that morning, I found myself pacing around my apartment like I was waiting for something to happen, except nothing did. No sudden text, no call, just the hum of the city outside, and the quiet of my own thoughts banging around in my head. I kept replaying everything from last night and this morning. The way Jamie's hand felt in mine, the way his smile hit me like a punch somewhere deep inside. It was all so new and confusing. But weirdly, it felt good too. Like maybe this was the kind of mess I could get used to. I stared at my phone, debating whether to text him. Should I say something, ask how he's holding up, or just let it breathe for a bit? I settled on sending something simple. "Coffee soon?" Because honestly, I didn't want to overthink it. I just wanted to see him again. Almost immediately, my phone buzzed. "Definitely. I owe you one." That was all the encouragement I needed. We agreed on meeting up later that afternoon at this tiny coffee shop a couple blocks from my place, a spot Jamie had mentioned once before, the kind of place with mismatched chairs and a playlist that feels like someone's personal mixtape. When I got there, Jamie was already there, sitting by the window, his legs pulled up on the chair, nose buried in a book. I felt a flicker of nerves creep in. It was the first time we were seeing each other since that night, and I wasn't sure how to act. Would things feel different? Awkward? Was I about to make a fool of myself? He looked up as I slid into the seat across from him, his face lighting up with that familiar smile that felt like home. "Hey," he said, voice casual but with this undercurrent of something I couldn't quite place. "Hey," I replied, trying to sound just as composed. We ordered our drinks and fell into an easy rhythm. the conversation flowing like it always did with us. But beneath the surface, there was this new tension, like both of us were quietly testing the waters, feeling out the edges of this new dynamic. So, I said after a while, swirling my coffee, "How are you really doing?" "With everything," Jamie shrugged, leaning back in his chair. "Better, I guess. Last night was a lot. But it also made me realize I don't want to waste time pretending everything's fine when it's not." I nodded, surprised by how much I related to that. "Yeah, me too. I've been good at pretending for a long time." He looked at me, eyebrows raised. "Pretending what?" I hesitated, then shrugged. "Pretending that I'm okay with just being friends when maybe I wanted more." But I was too scared to mess things up. Or maybe just scared I'd get hurt. Jamie reached across the table, his hand covering mine again. "You don't have to be scared with me." I swallowed hard, feeling this rush of warmth spread through me. "You really mean that?" He smiled, that slow, genuine grin that makes your heart do a stupid little flip. "Yeah, I do." We sat there for a moment, hands still touching, the noise of the coffee shop fading into the background. It was like we'd crossed some invisible line, but instead of falling, we landed somewhere safe. Then he laughed softly. "So what does this mean? Are we dating now?" Because I'm not great at this new relationship thing, I laughed too, relief bubbling up. "No idea, but maybe we can figure it out together. Like, one coffee at a time?" "Deal," Jamie said, raising his cup. After that, things started to feel less scary and more exciting. We began hanging out more, sometimes just the two of us, sometimes with our usual group of friends, testing how this new version of us fit into the world we'd built around our friendship. The more time we spent together, the more I realized how much I'd been missing without even knowing it. Late night talks that stretched until dawn, the way his laugh could cut through the roughest day, the comfort of knowing someone had your back no matter how messy life got. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were moments when doubt crept in, like when Jamie's phone buzzed with a message from his ex, or when I caught myself overthinking every little thing I said in case it pushed him away. One night, after a long day, we found ourselves sitting on my balcony, the city lights twinkling below. Jamie was unusually quiet, staring out into the distance. "Hey," I said gently. "What's on your mind?" He sighed. "I guess I'm scared. Scared this won't last. Scared I'm about to lose the best thing I've had in a long time. Because I'm too messed up to do this right." I reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from his face. "Jamie, you're not messed up. If anything, you're the most real person I know. And whatever this is between us, it's worth fighting for." He looked at me then, eyes shining with something I can only describe as hope. "Promise me something," he asked. "Anything. Promise me we'll be honest, even when it's hard." I nodded without hesitation. "I promise." That night, as we sat side by side, the fear didn't vanish completely, but it felt smaller, easier to face. Because for the first time, I wasn't alone in it. I don't know where this path leads yet. Maybe it's messy, maybe it's complicated. But with Jamie by my side, I'm ready to find out. One step, one coffee, one conversation at a time. The days that followed felt like walking a tightrope. Thrilling, nerve-wracking, and completely unpredictable. Jamie and I were navigating this new us, whatever that meant, and honestly, some mornings I'd wake up wondering if last night had been a dream, or if this was really happening. One Wednesday evening, after a long day at work, Jamie invited me over for dinner. Just casual, he'd said, but when I got to his place, I found him in the kitchen surrounded by pots and pans, looking both determined and slightly overwhelmed. "Don't laugh," he said, waving a wooden spoon like a sword. "I'm trying to cook. I figured if I'm going to do this whole boyfriend thing, I might as well learn how to make something besides cereal." I grinned, the kind of smile that spreads from the inside out. "I'm impressed. Most guys I know freeze when faced with a stove." Jamie chuckled, clearly relieved. "Good, because I'm about to serve up some experimental spaghetti." We sat in his tiny dining nook, the table set with 2 mismatched plates and a bottle of wine he'd been saving for a special occasion, which, judging by the slightly burnt smell coming from the kitchen earlier, was probably tonight. As we talked and ate, I caught myself stealing glances at him, the way his brow furrowed when he concentrated, the slight smudge of sauce on his chin, the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed. It hit me then how much I wanted to be here with him, not just as his friend, but as something more. So, Jamie said between bites, "How are you feeling about all this?" "Us?" I paused, swirling the wine in my glass. "Honestly, it's scary, but also kind of amazing. I never thought I'd find this with you. And I guess I'm still figuring out what that even means." He nodded, eyes serious now. "Yeah, me too. I keep thinking about the what ifs. What if it doesn't work? What if we mess up a friendship that's been my anchor for years?" I reached across the table, taking his hand in mine. "I get that, but sometimes you have to take a risk to find out if something better is waiting on the other side." Jamie squeezed my hand, and I felt that familiar warmth spread through me, the kind that makes the messy stuff feel worthwhile. After dinner, we moved to the couch, a comfortable silence settling between us. Jamie leaned his head on my shoulder, and for a moment, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something real. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs. A few days later, my phone buzzed with a message from Jamie. "We need to talk." My heart sank. I called him immediately, voice shaky. "What's going on?" He hesitated, then said, "It's my ex. She wants to meet. Says she wants closure." I wasn't sure what I expected, but jealousy and doubt hit me hard, uninvited and raw. "Do you want to see her?" I asked, trying to keep my tone calm. Jamie sighed. "I don't know. I thought I was over her, but this has stirred up a lot. I just want to be honest with you." That honesty meant everything to me, even if it hurt. "Okay," I said slowly. "Just promise me one thing. No matter what happens, you tell me how you feel. We're figuring this out together, right?" He smiled, relief evident in his voice. Together. The day of the meeting, I barely slept. The thought of Jamie sitting across from someone who was once so important to him made my chest ache. When he texted me afterward, saying it was hard but necessary, I felt grateful for his openness. That night, we met up again. Jamie looked tired, but there was a clarity in his eyes I hadn't seen before. "I realized something," he said, taking my hand. "I want to be with you. Not because I'm running away from the past, but because with you, I feel like I'm stepping into something real." My heart raced, a mix of relief and excitement flooding through me. "What about us?" I whispered. "What about us?" he echoed, brushing a stray hair from my face. "I want to try, all in, no more pretending." We kissed then, slow and tentative at first, but with growing confidence, like we were both finally accepting what had been there all along. Over the following weeks, our relationship deepened. We balanced the comfort of old friendship with the thrill of new love, learning each other's quirks, fears, and dreams. There were awkward moments, missteps, and conversations that tested our honesty, but through it all, we kept coming back to each other. One night, as we lay tangled in my sheets, Jamie whispered, "Thank you for being patient with me, for taking this leap." I smiled, tracing circles on his chest. "Thank you for trusting me enough to jump." And in that quiet, imperfect moment, I knew that no matter where this journey took us, we'd face it together. Messy, scared, hopeful, and fully alive. We settled into something that felt like a rhythm, a mix of old habits and new boundaries, learning how to be more than friends without losing what we already had. It wasn't always smooth. Sometimes there were moments when the past crept in, or when our own insecurities bubbled up, but we faced them together. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. One Friday evening after a long week, Jamie showed up at my place unannounced, holding a takeout bag and grinning like a kid who'd just pulled off a surprise. "Guess who finally tried to make dinner again?" he teased as he walked in. I laughed, standing up to meet him with a hug. "You're full of surprises lately." We settled on the couch, eating Chinese food and trying to ignore the pile of dishes from my attempt at cooking earlier in the week. It was casual, easy, The kind of night that makes you feel like maybe normal could be good. But as the night wore on, the conversation took a turn. "Can I ask you something?" Jamie said, not meeting my eyes. "Sure," I said, leaning back. "What do you think about telling people?" His voice was hesitant. I felt my throat tighten. Up until now, we'd kept things mostly private, partly because we weren't ready for questions, partly because some parts of our lives hadn't caught up with this new reality. "I don't know," I admitted. "I want to, but it's scary. What if it changes things? What if people don't get it?" Jamie nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get that, but I also think I'm tired of hiding." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the question hanging between us. "Maybe we don't have to do it all at once," I suggested. "We could start small. Just a few people we trust." He looked at me then, a mix of relief and gratitude in his eyes. "That sounds good." Over the next few weeks, we took tentative steps. We told a couple of close friends, some people we worked with, and each time, the responses were better than I expected. Sure, there were awkward questions and uncomfortable silences, but there was also support, and that made me realize how much I'd been hiding not just from others, but from myself. One afternoon, Jamie invited me over to meet his sister. I was nervous, not because I didn't like her, she was great, but because this felt like a bigger step. Introducing me was, in a way, him saying, "This is who I am now." She was warm and welcoming, asking questions that showed she cared without prying. By the time I left, I felt like a weight had lifted. But not everything was easy. There were moments when I caught Jamie staring off into space, a shadow crossing his face. "What's up?" I asked one night as we lay in bed. He hesitated, then said, "Sometimes I wonder if I'm ready for all this. The change, the expectations. I've been so used to being one person. Just Jamie, the guy with a girlfriend, the friend you could lean on. Now it feels like everything's different." I traced my fingers over his skin, trying to offer comfort without dismissing the truth of his feelings. "I get it," I said. "Change is scary, but it's also where growth happens, and you're not alone in this." He smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. "I know, and that means everything." One weekend, we decided to take a trip out of the city. Just the two of us, no distractions. We rented a small cabin near the lake, a place Jamie had loved growing up. I wasn't much of a camper, but I figured it was time to step out of my comfort zone. The first night, we sat by the fire, the crackling flames casting flickering shadows across his face. We talked about everything: fears, hopes, the future. "I want to be better," Jamie said quietly. "Not just for me, but for us. I want to build something real." I reached out, pulling him close. "We're building it together. No rush, no pressure." He looked up at me, eyes shining in the firelight. "Thank you for believing." The days that followed were filled with simple moments. Hiking, cooking over a stove fire, sharing stories under the stars. I saw sides of Jamie I hadn't before. His quiet determination, his vulnerability, his unshakable kindness. On the last night, as we lay wrapped in blankets, he whispered, "I'm scared of losing this, of losing you." I held him tighter. "You won't. Not if we keep being honest, keep fighting for each other." He smiled, that soft, genuine smile I'd come to love. "Then I'll fight. For us." And in that quiet cabin, far from the noise and chaos of everything else, it felt like we were finally home. Not because our story was perfect, far from it, but because it was ours. Messy, complicated, beautiful. I don't know what the future holds. There'll be bumps, setbacks, moments when doubt creeps back in. But for the first time, I'm ready to face it all with Jamie by my side. Because sometimes, the most unexpected fights lead to the most unexpected loves. And maybe that's exactly how it's supposed to be. That cabin trip felt like a turning point, but the real changes happened long after we left the woods and went back to our messy city lives. Life didn't suddenly become easy. If anything, the challenges kept coming. But Jamie and I had built something stronger than the fear and uncertainty that had haunted us before. Months later, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, we found ourselves back at my apartment, sprawled out on the couch with a lazy playlist humming in the background. Jamie was tracing patterns on my arm, and I caught myself really looking at him. The way the sunlight caught the flecks in his eyes, the soft lines around his mouth when he smiled. "I've been thinking," he said after a while, voice low but certain, "about how far we've come, about how scared I was at first, and how lucky I am now." I grinned, feeling that familiar warmth spread inside. "Yeah?" Because I was thinking the same thing. He shifted closer, resting his head on my shoulder. "I want to keep doing this. Us, no matter what comes next." I nudged him gently, heart full. "Me too. I don't have all the answers, but I know I want to figure it out with you." We stayed like that for a while, the silence comfortable and full of meaning. It wasn't some big, dramatic moment, no grand declarations or sweeping gestures, but it didn't have to be. What we had was quiet and steady, something that had grown out of late-night talks, awkward confessions, and the simple act of choosing each other every day. Later that evening, as I walked Jamie to the door, he paused and looked up at me with that shy grin I'd come to know so well. "Thanks for letting me stay that night," he said softly. "For holding space when I didn't know how to ask for it." I smiled, fingers brushing his cheek. "You didn't have to ask. I'm glad you did." He leaned in, the kiss gentle and real, a promise without words. Watching him walk away, I realized that sometimes love isn't about fireworks or perfect timing. It's about showing up when it matters most, about finding courage in vulnerability, and about letting someone in fully and without reservation. The fight that brought Jamie over to my couch that night, it wasn't just an ending. It was the start of everything I didn't even realize I'd been waiting for. And now that it's here, I'm not letting go.